Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I'm Joe Garrett, as always being joined by Ollie Guy.
Hello, hello.
Hello Ollie, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling stranded or survived. Survivaled.
You're feeling like you've survived the last 2 weeks, right?
Yes, I'd say so, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to explain why you find that really funny? Because people might not know what game. I guess people know what game we're talking about, but you might want to go more in depth.
Yes, we have been playing. So is it called? It's called Survival Kids on the Game Boy Color.
So it's called Survival Kids in most places. Yep. In Europe, it's called Stranded Kids. So that's technically, we've technically been playing Stranded Kids, but Survival Kids is a much better name, and it's the name most people know. So for the rest of the podcast, we will call it Survival Kids.
Yes, although I was playing a ROM, so mine was actually Survival Kids.
Oh, you played a ROM of the...
I have been playing Survival Kids,
the US one. Okay, I played, just to explain for like the video footage, I played the original cartridge. So all of the footage you're seeing is directly the data from the cartridge, but I was playing it on something called an analog pocket, which is basically, it's kind of like hardware emulation of the Game Boy, but it doesn't it's just a really nice screen that plays it, and it allowed me to capture it in high quality, but I wasn't playing like a special version. Like we both played the Game Boy version of this game.
Yeah. So, Wikipedia, would you like to hear what they have to say about Survival Kids?
I'd love to.
Okay. Survival Kids, known as Stranded Kids in Europe, and Survival Kids Koto no Bukunsha, which is Adventure of the Solitary Island in Japan, is a Game Boy Color game developed by Konami that was released in 1999. Gameplay revolves around surviving on a deserted island. The game features an open-ended structure that presents the player with multiple ways to progress through the game. And that's it. That's all Wikipedia had to say.
It's quite nice. I didn't know what the subtitle was for Japan, saying about like the lone island or whatever, because I know that there's a sequel that came out only in Japan, but it's about like surviving on the twin island. So I'm like, the island made a friend.
Yes, I think the sequel, I don't know too much about it, but I think the sequel kind of went into Pokemon Red and Blue style, where you had two different ones because you could link them as well.
Okay.
Because you could link up and there were certain tasks that took two players, so I guess Twin Island kind of makes sense. But
okay, cool. So I guess I should go into why I chose this game. Well, first, it was me that chose this game. You can sometimes guess by what the game is for who chose it. And there's two reasons. One of them, which I'll be honest wasn't the main reason, is because we did a poll recently asking people what genre of game that we haven't yet done on the podcast would people like to see. And the winner was a survival game. And so in true bonus points fashion, rather than doing Subnautica or Don't Starve or, I don't know, Minecraft, I decided to do the 1999 Konami Game Boy Color game, Survival Kids. So that's one reason. But I had bought this game myself to play anyway. I was just going to play it. And that's because I recently got that analog pocket device, which I said about, and I'd been looking for games, and I was looking at a lot of lists of top Game Boy games, and it was coming up quite often up there. Mm-hmm. And also, I never had a home game console until I was a teenager. So a lot of my, deep-seated nostalgia is for Game Boy games, and in particular Pokemon, and I've just been desperate to play a game that looks a bit like Pokemon, has that perspective, that level of fidelity. And so I've been playing the Zelda games on Game Boy, and then when I saw this Game Boy, I was like, no, this game, I was like, oh, it looks like something cool I've not played. And it looks a little bit like Pokemon. I want to play this game.
We actually had a comment from FishDub on YouTube that said, I find it interesting how the old school top-down pixel style of games, like this game, the original Zelda, Earthbound, etc., can successfully cover a wide range of genres while maintaining these kind of graphics.
Yeah.
And we actually also spoke about it on Extra Credit, didn't we? We were talking about Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, anything that looks like that. I do still wonder what the original is. What's the original game that looks like this?
I mean, it's kind of the obvious, because unless you're doing a side-scrolling game, Like this is like the key perspective because it's not like completely vertical, but it's like a very a very acute angle, looking down where it's almost vertical. You have a bit of perspective, and I think it is mostly just nostalgia from Pokemon, but I just love it. I just love games in that perspective of this level of fidelity. Like even once you kind of get to like 16-bit, like even though it like almost objectively looks lovelier, like the nostalgia's gone, so I kind of don't care anymore.
Yeah, this is a great looking game as well. It really does well to convey all of its little like signifiers and iconography through this. Like, is it 8-bit? Is it? I don't know if it technically is 8-bit. I don't know about the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, let me show. I should probably just look that up now, right? And just and just see.
So I think the original Game Boy is like 1-bit, and it's basically like how transparent this pixel is.
Yeah, according to the first Wikipedia, it is 8-bit.
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah, it looks great for an 8-bit game. There's a lot going on, a lot of detail in this game, considering how small and crunched down it is.
And it's done like lots of really smart effects. Like the rain looks really good, which is obviously a tough thing to do because the way Game Boy games work is, everything would be kind of like a tile and a sprite. So it's kind of difficult to do like a single like line of pixels. Yeah. And then, when you get into darkness, the way the kind of darkness surrounds you and you kind of move through the light, but you can only see a bit ahead of you, like those effects are really smart. But yeah, before we get too into the weeds, as we often do, should we kind of just set up like, well, what the setup of this game is and kind of what it is like playing it moment to moment?
Yes. So I'll set it up, but I think you should comment on how much it's like a modern survival game because these are not my bag. So about we had a lot of comments. A lot of people actually were quite excited about this game as well, which is quite cool. But people were comparing it to like Don't Starve and things which I've never played, things like that. But anyway, so this game, you are basically a little person like on Pokemon. You wash up on a beach, and then you have to survive. And that's in terms of like the actual story, that's kind of as much as they give you until you kind of go further into it. You just have to survive. And you have like a hunger meter, water meter, F for fatigue. Obviously not food, it's for fatigue. So that's your how tired you are. And you kind of have to go around and like hunt animals, collect water, and then your meat that you collect can spoil, or like you can combine things to make new items. You can't build anything, but you can, but not like you can in like say Minecraft. You can build certain things at certain points in the story, but it's like you merge stuff together, and then the story, or I guess your character's motivations, kind of come out as you play more.
Can I talk through the opening cutscene? Because I really enjoyed the opening cutscene.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
So it starts off, you see like a boat, which looks like the Titanic, like a giant like cruiser. And then it kind of zooms in and it's saying about like, oh yeah, here's this giant ship. And the crew is 2 people. And it's like the dad and their child, either a daughter or a son, depending on what you chose at the beginning. And then it says that, and there's got to be some fun translation, adventurous dad gives a knife for this child's 10th birthday as they're there controlling this giant boat, and then there's a storm, and then you get washed up onto the island. And I just thought that was such a weird, funny setup. Like the fact that they'd like this enormous boat with just them, only for their 10th birthday. It's like, God, like, who's the dad? Like Bill Gates? Like I don't.
Also, the kids' names in the Japanese version, like the boy's called Kon and the girl's called Nami, so it's like Konami. And then in the English one, they're Ken and Mary. Which is like, I guess they're quite close.
Someone did a web search for generic Western name, I guess. I will say I named my character Onyx. And that is because while I was playing and trying to come up with the name, which can only be up to 4 characters, Onyx, who's a real person, joined our Patreon and jumped on the Discord, and everyone popped up saying, welcome Onyx, welcome Onyx. I was like, oh, wow. Onyx is a cool name. I'm going to call my character Onyx. So shout out to Onyx.
Yeah, shout outs. Mine was just called TBP.
Okay.
Simple as. Although I did name another character Joe, if you want to guess who that might have been.
Was I named after a little monkey? Was I?
The little monkey was called Joe.
Oh dear. So yeah,
that's the moment to moment is you survive, you eat foods, you drink water, you merge things. You don't craft them, you merge them.
yeah.
So like if you want to make fire, you get kindling and a stick and merge them. No, what is it? Is it bark and a stick?
It's like dried bark and then a stick.
Yeah, and a stick and it makes kindling. And then you make fire, and that's kind of how you go.
Yeah, and you say this very much like, oh yeah, this is obvious. And I think that's because this is, this has become standard. There's a lot of games where it's, you're knocking down a tree and then you use a stick and stone to make an axe, and then you could end up getting an iron axe and stuff. But, this is really kind of one of the first ones. And one of the things that I really appreciate right from the very beginning is, as you say, is they just dump you on this island and then they just leave you to it. Like, you don't have anything. Like, you start digging through some sand piles and you get your backpack where you get like a knife and you get like matches that are like too wet to use and a radio which is broken and doesn't have a battery, and it's like, right, brilliant, thanks game. And then you're really just working it out. But because it is a Game Boy game and it's so just restrictive because of the hardware, it kind of works because you're going to work out what you can craft and what to do because you're so limited in terms of options, because there can never be that much on screen. There's not a million different items or combinations. You're going to work out that, if you mix a stick with the sap, you can make a torch because you knew you had to make a torch, and, there's only a certain amount of options available to you.
Yeah, also the map can't be like infinitely huge either.
Yeah.
So to start with, you probably have about 6 screens that you can go on. And then from there, you have to kind of figure out how to progress. That's where you also get your hut as well at the beginning. So you have a set house that you can go to, which you can store stuff in and merge without having to go in the box every single time. Thank you for that tip. That's very helpful.
There's quite a lot of little quality of life stuff like that which you wouldn't expect. So obviously, as I say, you have your limited inventory space, and so at first I was taking out everything I needed to craft, but then if you're in the hut, which is where your chest is, where you would store other things, you can just go and craft it immediately. Even just little things like every time you start a new day, because there is a day-night cycle, it will just like, you'll wake up and be like, today I need to try and fix the raft. Like, they just like remind you of what your overall objective is. And I feel like that's the sort of thing that has become standard now, but back in the day, that was like them going a little bit above and beyond and actually being relatively nice.
Yeah, and also not having to use items, like not having to open it and use it. Like, say you want to fill your flask, you don't have to go to the water's edge and then use it. You just press on the water's edge and he's like, shall I drink or shall I fill up the flask? And then you don't have to open the menu or like mess around. And there's quite a few instances of that, so that's also quite handy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the only thing, and it may be like hardware limitation, like that got a little bit frustrating in that regard, is one, I think the inventory space. If they gave you like, if I would pay twice the price for the game if they just gave me like 2 more slots. Like I think I'd spend like a tenner per inventory slots, and not because you don't have enough, because it's not really, really bad, but it just meant that I wasn't being as creative, or I wasn't using things like, so you can make a bow and arrow, you can get like an ivy and like a bendy stick, and then if you get like a stick, a feather, and then like a pointy stick, you can make a bow and arrow, which is cool. But I never ended up carrying them around because that's like 2 inventory slots just for the bow and arrow. Or if it rains, you kind of have an umbrella leaf, which means that you don't get fatigued when you're in the rain. And so I wish I would just always have that in my inventory in case it rains, because you don't know when it will rain. But I'd be like, is it worth carrying it? Because that's like a whole slot. That could be something else. So I wish they gave me literally 2 more would have been enough for me to use the mechanics a bit more.
Well, a little tip for you, mate, even though I know you finished it, just don't bother carrying any fruit. Just eat it as soon as you find it. Because the days are so short. Yeah, so I was just like, I'm just going to eat that. And it pretty much kept everything covered on my on my list. The only one that kept tripping me up was getting fatigued. I'd always forget about fatigue. And then I'd be like, and also the day and night cycle seemed to be like pretty much random. So like, it would suddenly be night and then suddenly day. And it's like, now I'm knackered.
The reason it seems random is it's not based on time passing. It's the reason it seems random. So it's basically done by like your input. So if you stand perfectly still, like time is frozen. It's basically like
Okay.
super hot when you're
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
this game. But when you start moving and doing things, time will go quicker, which is pretty quite good. It's like an in-game representation of real life. You know, if you have a busy day, time will pass
Yeah,
quickly. But
true.
if you're chilling
True.
on the beach, I mean, I don't think that's
Yeah.
why they did it, but I did
No.
notice that, and that is my other of my two kind of big issues, like mechanically. The other one is like days are way too short. Like days could be
Yeah.
like they need to be 3 times as long as they are, because like the day will begin, and if I accidentally go left instead of right, I'm like, oh, that's like half my day gone. Oh no, I haven't even
Yeah,
got to the
yeah.
place that I want to do the thing. So I feel like the days should be much longer than they are.
Yeah, because your food and water is pretty much covered as soon as you get the hut. You kind of have
Yeah.
enough stuff there to kind of keep yourself full and what's the opposite of thirsty? Hydrated. So that's pretty much covered off. The other thing that I thought, well, there was a few things that I thought were a bit rough, but one of the main things I used quite a lot that I thought was pretty bad was the map. Like, just because it only kind of shows how the areas are connected, and I'd be like, where did I see that thing? I don't remember where it was. I opened the map and it's just like a square.
Yeah, I just never used it.
Yeah.
Do you think you needed it though, or is it just you? It would have been nice
There
if it was
was
there.
like there was a point where I was trying to find the small stone to use it as a hammer,
Yeah,
and I was like, I've run past it so many times, but I can't remember where I ran past it. So
yeah.
it didn't take very long to find it because the map's not huge, but like, sorry, the in-game world's not huge, but using the map was like, did you even look at it?
Like I have seen it, but like I
It looks
never.
like a spreadsheet. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's literally just like it'd be like an area, but with like no detail in it. It would just be like, here's a chunk, which just
yeah,
it just shows how different areas of the map link together. But then again, it's you don't really know what those areas are. So yeah, it's not the most useful. But the island is small enough that I
Mhm.
spend enough time on it. And because you'll spend a lot of time in one small area,
Yeah,
and then you'll get an axe to cut down a tree, and that will unlock a new area. But I already know that bottom area so well, so the way it's gradually introduced to you, like I just learnt my way around just by
yeah,
looking at what I was looking at, which I always like that in games.
yeah, and also like talking about not taking items with you, like the bow and arrow or the fishing rod, like they kind of find reasons for you to need them.
Yeah,
Like they become story relevant, so that you have to go back and get them. Because once I made the fishing rod, I was like, well, why would I ever fish? Like I can just kill things with my knife, and then it's fine. And then I was like, oh, I need it to pick up this gemstone or whatever. So like,
yeah.
it was fine after that.
The one time I remember doing a lot of fishing is so one of the other aspects of the game is there's multiple endings. And
Hmm.
I didn't realize this at the beginning. And so one of your first objectives is to create a raft to get off the island, which I did. And I sailed off
Yeah,
in my raft and it started doing a cutscene. And then I just died. And it was like,
yeah, that
I was
happened to me
there
as
with my
well.
little monkey, who I named Buddy,
Yeah,
out in the ocean. And then I was like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm going to fall asleep. And then it literally comes up on screen and said, Onyx never awoke again. And the game ended. And I was like,
yeah, that ends. Yeah, that's
whoa.
ending too.
And so I was like, oh, I need to stockpile food. And so that was where I
Yeah.
just did the same again, but I just went fishing for a whole day and got loads of fish
Okay.
to bring with me.
Yeah, so you saw all, did you see all 8 endings or did you just see a few of them and the main one?
No, so I think I saw most of them, but like there's a
Hmm.
lot of them that there's just like variants of them, and I didn't always do the variants. So like there's like the main good ending, which I got, which is basically
Yeah.
you escaping with someone else who you'd end up discovering on the island. And then another ending is you escaping with them, but you're in love. You know, so it's so it's like the
Ooh,
ending's
okay.
essentially the same, but and then the other thing is there's essentially a 100-day like limit to this game. And remember,
Yeah.
the days are very short, so that seems like ages, but it's, you know, I ended up escaping on day 90 or something. And
Wow,
if
okay.
if you end up just reaching that point, you will get an ending depending on your situation. So if it's just you and the monkey, you'll get an ending of like me and the monkey living together, or you on your own, or you with this other person. And it's like, oh, we're stranded here, but we got everything we need, don't we? Yeah, we do.
We're stranded kids.
Yeah, we're stranded kids. And then it'll just
Well,
pop up
whatever.
saying like, you got an ending, but not the best ending.
Yeah.
So because there's
Okay,
so many
that's- yeah.
variants, I think I saw most main endings, but I didn't bother doing like every other one. What about you?
I saw 2 endings and then I got to the like Viking Egyptian ship, whatever that was,
Okay,
where
yeah.
you had to put the stones in.
Yeah.
and I didn't progress past that, but I did watch the ending on YouTube. So, but the
Okay.
one I watched, they didn't fall in love. They
Uh,
just were both
so,
there.
so what that was is so you've been so it's really cool. Did you ever meet another person or see any
I watched
signs?
it. I saw it on YouTube, so I know. So
Okay.
basically, I stopped playing because basically you leave and then come back, and she's outside the boathouse, right? So I
That
like.
that's not what happened with
I've,
me.
okay, so that's what happened on this. But I basically left the boathouse, and then I was like, I don't have time to play anymore. So I'm just gonna because the full playthrough was 2 hours on YouTube. So I was like, I'm just gonna put that on while I work and then
Okay.
check in on it every so often. But
Yeah.
yeah, so but on that one, she was laying down outside the boathouse,
Yeah.
and then
So
carried her in, put her in the boat.
yeah. So what happens is it's really cool because it's really weird for a while when exploring the island when you go to a new area. Sometimes you will out loud exclaim, "Oh, there's no one here," just like
There's no one here.
randomly. Yeah. And then I was exploring an area that I'd been to a lot, and then there was like a burnt out like campsite, and I was like,
Oh
"What?" And
wow,
and
okay.
I looked at it, and they're like, "Oh, someone's been here," but like right in my like my personal space, like right by my house.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I found another one, and then eventually you find this person collapse, and then you bring them home, and then you can kind of feed them to get them healthy, and then.
Hmm.
Basically, the way to get them to fall in love with you is just to feed them loads of meat. So it's it's just like real life.
Right. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so if you keep feeding them meat, you they make them fall in love with you. So I wanted to try that to get their ending, but so I looked this up online afterwards after spending ages just shoveling meat down their mouth, but them not falling in love with me. Is that it turns
Yeah.
out that if you've ever feed them anything that like isn't good food, they're poisoned,
Yeah.
and then for the final cutscene, they just die. So my like main ending where I got like the credits was we get rescued. And like while we're like getting rescued, they're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, we did it. Oh, this is so good." And they're like, "Oh, are you feeling all right?" They're like, "Yeah, no, I'll be fine." They're like, "Are you sure?" And then they basically just die. And then what did it say? It goes, "Oh yeah." So I named that character Vix, and it said, "And Vix never smiled again." And
Oh
it's
my
so
God.
depressing. And then the credits roll, and I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
brilliant.
Did you get the helicopter ending at the beginning?
I did. I had to look that up, and then I just did that.
I
Like
did that. That's the one
afterwards.
I got originally. My first one was that one, and I was like, "That
Oh,
doesn't
you
seem
found
so
it
bad."
legit.
Yeah, yeah. I literally just did it.
Oh, because
Turned it, got the batteries for the radio, turned it on, and it was like, "There's a helicopter coming. Can you?" And he's like, "I need to write something on the beach." And then I don't think I even wrote it. I think I just went down to the beach and it was there, like SOS. He's like, "Oh, great, it's done." And then the
yeah.
helicopter came in, and I was like,
So I thought that was like a
"Good."
secret ending because it's like right at the beginning of the game.
It's right at the beginning, yeah.
And don't you? Because you get batteries for your radio, then you just have to keep using the radio again and again and again and again,
I'd
right?
used it once. I used it once. And it
Oh,
just did it.
so
So,
I had to keep using it like loads until
well,
it
the
said
weird thing
about the
is like I
message.
used it that one time, and then that's when I texted you, and I was like, "Oh, I finished it." And you were like, "Oh, you just load up your save again." But
Yeah.
because I was using save state, I didn't have a save.
Ah,
So I
okay.
reloaded my save state, and then when I picked up the radio, it was like the search has been called off. So obviously something is different. I must have done
Okay.
something different between, but I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the amount of inputs or something, and it
Yeah.
was like
Because
it
for
didn't work
me,
after
I had
that.
to like
So
keep doing it again and again and again, and it's almost because it's like you can do it like in like your second day or something basically, and you get
yeah,
rescued almost immediately. So the the time I did that is so because I've got the physical cartridge that I ordered,
mhm.
and for some reason I always loved it. So I loaded it up and I had someone else's save on it.
Oh
Um,
yes,
and
awesome. What
I
was that
always
name?
so they were called Evil.
Ooh,
I know. I
God
might.
possessed. Isn't that card just supposed to be grey?
I think it's like a haunted cartridge or something. And
Oh my
so
God.
I was like, you know what? This game came out in 1999. We don't know when they made this save, but they've probably
Mm,
been stranded on that island for a long time. I'm going to rescue them. So I,
yes,
I managed to get Evil rescued from that island. Who knows
that's
how many years they
amazing.
were stuck there, but I was able to save them.
That is amazing. I'm surprised the battery's still working in the cartridge after so long.
Yeah, I know. I think the seller that I bought it from might have changed. I can't remember. I'm
Oh,
not sure.
okay,
No, oh
okay.
no, it definitely listed working battery when I bought it because that's something that
Yeah.
I always check because
Wow.
I don't want to fiddle around with that.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. That's amazing. That's a great story.
Yeah, so I managed to save Evil, but when I first loaded it up and saw that, I was really happy.
Um, right. So we sort of talked a little bit about the graphics and how good they are.
Yep.
I mean, they're good enough that one of the things that I thought was really cool is you can see footprints, animal footprints, so you can set up traps, which is like the detail level of that is crazy. Like, think about Pokemon. You can't even imagine them having footprints in that, and like they look so good. They're like, they go around corners and everything on this. That looks great.
And also, so the art's good, but also just technically things like you can move diagonally, which for a lot of games of their era you can't move diagonally. Like, you know, Pokemon, I don't think they got to like Game Boy Advance before you could do that. And then also the screens are very big, and that's something that I'm really noticing because I'm playing Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages at the same time. Is most screens are the Game Boy screen, and when you move to the edge, you know, it's not like it's a loading screen, but it has to like pan across, and it, you know, hurts the pacing. Whereas each area here, the screen scrolls quite a distance before you kind of move around, and the game ran really well as well. And because I was capturing footage of it, I was playing it on like a big HD TV as well, and the graphics were holding up in that regard as well. So I know you're about to switch to a negative, Ollie, but I just wanted to get a clear picture. I
just wanted to quickly move on to the music because the music is so good.
Yeah, the music's great.
Why is the music so good on this game? Like, it's crazy how good the music is. And then the other thing is about this game is that, like, I looked into the credits. Like, I found this website where you can click on people who made the game, and it shows you like other stuff they've done. And like, no one from this game has done anything else like as big as this, I'd say. Like, the guy that directed this went on to become like a UI or like graphic designer for Prevo. Like, that's like what all their careers are like. They're all just like going into these weird things. And like, so I was thinking like there must be some absolute bangers in there because they've kind of invented a genre, and it works pretty well, and it looks nice, and the music's good. But
yeah, and it didn't get to because one of the problems with Game Boy is because obviously they're so limited in terms of data, is the music might be fine if you're like, oh, let me send you this clip on YouTube. Oh yeah, that's really catchy. But when you're hearing it again and again and again in a short loop, it can grate on you. But it switched up enough and changed in different areas enough that I at least never got to that point. You know, maybe if I played this game for 20 hours, it would have. You know, I probably played it for about 8 hours total. But and like the startup music, like as well, like the title screen is really, really lovely.
Yeah, I think I played about 35 days, maybe 40 if you count reloads, because I had to reload a few times. So, yeah, I played quite a lot of it. Didn't get annoying.
Yeah.
And also I found like the 1999 version of Metacritic called Game Rankings, and they do aggregate scoring, and it's got an 83, so it's not bad. And also, back then, an 83 was probably worth more than it is now. So
yeah. As I said, it kept coming up. Like, I hadn't heard of it, but it kept coming up in lists of top Game Boy games. It is a bit of a shame, like, where you split off, because one of, like, I think the standout moments of the game is, so the bit I mentioned about after the raft, if you have enough food and water and you survive the raft, you crash, but you don't know where you've crashed. You're just somewhere else with your monkey. And you're kind of starting from scratch, and then, as you say, you find kind of this boat that kind of looks like a Viking longboat or something, and then that
like an
becomes
Egyptian. There's like hieroglyphics. Like...
You're trying to get these like I don't know what these are, these emblems basically to try and to release this boat to sail a whale on it, and that becomes like your new house. But then you keep exploring, and as far as you know, it's a whole different place. But then eventually, you kind of work your way through and you realize you're on the other side of an area that you had been before. And you're like, and like they even say in the game, like, oh, it's the same island. There's like a waterfall you had seen before, and you fall down that waterfall. And then now you have a shortcut. And so now you've linked those two areas and you have a much bigger space. And then another area that you saw earlier on, which was like a swamp with these weird lily pads that you can kind of float around on but couldn't do anything with. And then when I carried on exploring, I saw a place, like a swampy place with lily pads. I was like, oh, I know where this is going to link up with, and it does. And eventually, like the water rises or sinks. Oh no, the water sinks down, and then you've basically just got the entire island open to you with like multiple shortcuts linking it up. And I really enjoyed that, especially as I said, I was trying to really learn my way around just by looking at what's there. I was like, I know my way around this island. If I need to get to the big stick, I know how to get to the big stick. If I need to get to the weird woods with the flowers that you keep getting lost in, I know how to get there really quick. And I really enjoyed that.
Also, the rising and lowering water is just, it does it when it rains as well, right?
Yeah,
because there's some part where you just go and there's suddenly a bridge.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can actually cross there now. But yeah, so on mine, when I went across or went into the ocean with all my food and everything, when I got to another island, Joe the monkey was there. And he was like, if you're here, then this must be the same island. Is that
you didn't take the monkey on the raft?
No.
Why not?
Sorry, yes, internet issue, but I abandoned the monkey because I didn't want to feed him the second time.
Wow.
Because I lost all of my... Because I'd had the same ending where I was in the sea and then I was like, oh, I'm just running out of food. I'm really tired.
Running out of bananas.
So the second... Yeah. The second time around didn't take him and then he was there. It worked. So what happened on yours then? He just came with you and then you realised it was...
Yeah, no, he just stayed with me the whole time. And then, but I guess the thing is that it meant that when I didn't realize I was on the same island until it all linked up again. So I guess I just had that cool moment. I mean, I guess you stopped before you would have had that moment anyway. But I had that moment.
No. Oh yeah, I guess yeah. So mine, because the monkey has your back. He doesn't have your backpack. What does he have? Oh, he does have your backpack. He's like going through it, and that's how you find him and your backpack again.
Yeah, because he kind of like trolls you a bit
screen
early on,
picking up the monkey,
and then there's like there's a storm that ruins your hut. And he gets like crushed, and you have to like use a big stick to like ply like some debris off him or something, didn't you?
Can we talk about the big stick?
Sure.
Why do you not want to?
I didn't know there was anything to talk about. Like, what's wrong with the big stick?
I think I spent a long time at the beginning of this game trying to make a hammer to move the rocks.
Okay.
To like break them. Because you get a big stick, you get a big rock. You get small sticks, you get small rocks. And I was like trying to merge them. Nothing was happening. I actually had to look up online what to do. And it was like, you use the big stick to push the rock. And I was like, what? Like, who does that? So I combined a small stick and a small rock. And the first thing I made in the game was like a baseball set. You can't even use it.
I didn't know you could make a baseball set.
So stupid.
Maybe you could play with the monkey. Set.
Shame I haven't got anyone to play with. No. Maybe you can actually. But yeah, he says I've got no one to play with, and I was just like, well, what good is that? So then I started getting rained on, and he was like, I wish I had an umbrella, and I was like, okay, big leaf and stick.
Yeah.
No, it's not. You need an umbrella leaf, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And then couldn't make an axe for a little while. Couldn't figure out how to do it. I don't think the merge system is as obvious as it thinks it is. It's kind of hard. So the reason I also sent you the manual of the game, and the reason I did that is because I tried to find it myself because I assumed in the manual they'll be like, to get started, here's how you make a fire. Here's how you make a spear or an arrow. It just has nothing in it. It is like you really are having to fend for yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was that easy to...
I think that I think there's a lot of things where we look now and we be like, oh, there's the obvious thing that I should be able to do, but I can't because that's not the specific thing the developers had in mind, so it won't let me do it. But I think like for the good like first like couple hours of playing, like I didn't need to use a guide at all, and I think the reason why they get away with it here is because it is so limiting and it is such a small selection of items. At some point I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder if I can use that big stick to move that rock, and I just tried it and it did. You know, if the area was twice the size it was and there was the twice amount of items, like maybe I wouldn't have. I would have assumed that it would be something a little bit more obvious. The only bit that I got really properly stuck on was there was a bit in a cave, and I think I mentioned this to you, where there's like a small gap. And basically you have to use ivy on it to make a bridge. And then it makes like a proper like rope bridge. And the thing is, I created a whip, which I never really found a use for. And I also
created a whip.
I was trying to
it
like
even says useless whip. Like
yeah. And So I like, and then like so, but then the next one, I think you have to use a stick to get across. And so that was the one time where I was completely stuck. But the rest of the time, I like was able to work it out, and that is always the most satisfying way for me is when I am left to my own devices. And it is, I'm so glad there wasn't like, I'm so glad the monkey wasn't like Navi and like giving little tips or saying like, or like Atreus and helping me out.
I agree. I think it would have been nice if there was something that was like, that kind of showed you the edge, and it was like, you combine two things to make an item, but some things can be used on their own. And like, that kind of would have been enough.
And some things you need three items.
You can combine stuff three. Yeah, exactly.
But only like two items or something. Maybe even only one.
Yeah. So some things I learned because I watched a couple of reviews of the game, not because I was trying to get hints, because obviously I could look at a guide, but because I was just curious what people thought. And that's where I learned that you could smoke out bees' nests and then eat the honey. I saw someone doing that, and I was like, oh, that's actually very clever that you can do that. So yeah. I didn't think the merge system was cool, and it's obviously very unique and original at this time, but it was a bit like tricky to get exactly what they want you to make.
Yeah.
To even know what the solution is, like moving the rock, it wasn't immediately obvious that it was to be pushed with a stick. I guess you could put it underneath and then like I don't really know. Yeah,
I think that is it. I think that's your applying it, but then even then you'll think maybe with a rock or something. I think for like the survival stuff, it works pretty well. Like killing an enemy or like a animal, getting the meat, and then like use the kindling to make a fire to not cook the meat, burn the meat, and burn it. Like if you like eat like random fruit and berries and like nuts and stuff, you find sometimes it would be like, oh, this would make a good spice. Then it's like, oh, if you merge that with the meat, you can make like preserved meat, which will last, several days rather than just one day, which is what the meat would normally last. Like that stuff's perfect, but the stuff linked with progression, where it's like, oh, here's this tree that you need to cut down, and it's like, oh, you got to make the axe. That isn't like Minecraft where you can just make an axe. It's like there's one bit of iron or something that can make the axe. It's almost like a quest item. Like that's not just like you can only ever craft one. And I think that's where I think it would have been nice if they just like you could just make axes and you just work out to make an axe and use it there, because there's a few items like that you craft that would seem to be really useful, but you basically need to use it once as essentially a key to progress further throughout the island.
Well, so you just touched on it there, but a really cool thing was like testing things to see what they did. So like eating different types of grass and just being like, well, I hope this is a good one. Because then when you click on it again, it will tell you like, we'll make you confused, or like we'll fill you up, or whatever.
But you got to eat it first.
Cool.
And some of them are like, it will change your controls. So like up is down and down is right. Or like one, if you eat like a raw clam, it like just paralyzes you. And so you just can't move. But then I had like later on, there's a bit with like the swamp where there's alligators, and it's like, oh, I can't get past the alligators. If only I could stop them moving. And I'm like, oh, I know what can stop them moving. I'll go feed them the clam. So it's useful in that case as well.
I didn't know. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know you did that. Also, another thing, even though I don't typically like open-ended games or anything like that, I actually think that the lack of the story and the open-endedness is quite cool. And the fact that the story is kind of like a bit of a nothing, because it really gives you a chance to like, what are you going to do? Are you going to make your life here? Or are you going to figure out what's going on with this boat? Or like, like I thought that was actually quite brave. And also the fact that some of the endings are bad is cool as well. You know?
Like most of them, it seems like, and like really bad.
Yeah. I did come up with an alternate ending, if you'd like to hear it.
Okay.
So my alternate ending is, those gems you're getting? They're like rhomboid. They're called like the different gemstones.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had to do a task with those that could send you back 30 days. So you do that, and then say you go back to like day 10, then I need to do that task again with the gems. You do it a bit quicker, and then it would send you back before the game started, and then he'd be like, we shouldn't get on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I would have ended it.
So say if you were at like 90 days in, you'd have to do that twice until you're going back in time enough.
Exactly. It would go back, and it wouldn't take that long to do the task, so like something simple, but it's like quite cool that you go back before, and maybe you save the day. Maybe you're like, we shouldn't go because this thing is loose. Yeah,
maybe you'll take the monkey next time. You know, I think that's great because I always love it. I always love it in games where the thing that's like progressing is like your knowledge and your ability, rather than like, oh, you're leveling up, so now you do more damage. It's like, oh no, you've just gained the knowledge, so now you can do more things. Like I think Tunic is like the best modern example of that. Is like you kind of do level up a bit, but you're mainly leveling up just your knowledge, and that's the way you're getting better. And this is a game that, there is kind of combat. There are like bears and stuff that will attack you, and like mountain lions. Although, did you ever trap any in a hole? Did you know that that's a thing you can do?
No, I saw it on the video I watched. But he's like, he finds a trap, doesn't he? And he's like, oh, hang on a minute, I can make a pitfall.
Yeah, well, it's just a hole, and then you can put like a big leaf over it, and then they fall in. Did you find any mini games?
I saw the option on the menu, but I didn't actually find any. And then I saw one in the video, but if you found any, let's hear him. I don't want to spoil it. We're just telling people what I saw in the video.
Yeah, so there's 3 in the game. The only one I found was like, it's like I found a tree with an egg in, and I was with my monkey buddy, and they were like, oh, like we could get that egg. So like the monkey goes up, and it's like, here's the rules for the mini game, and basically it's like they're gonna throw the eggs, and you got to catch them. And so it goes to like a side view perspective, and I was like, oh, eggs are going to be dropping, I got to move left and right to catch them, and then it just threw one out, and I pressed to the left, but like you don't, like if you press left you kind of keep moving, you don't just like move a bit. I missed the egg, and it was like, you failed the game, and then it was like, I can't retry, and then it was like, I think the egg shows up again like 3 or 4 days later, and I was like, oh, that's the worst minigame ever. But I did eventually get an egg, and then I cooked it, but then I forgot to eat it, and it became rotten. So that was the only minigame I did. I think there's like a fishing one or something as well.
There's one I saw online, was you play as the monkey, and you climb trees and jump between trees, and you have to get up. And there's like a windstorm happening with like branches and stuff blowing down. I saw that one, and then you throw a coconut down, I think, which is quite cool.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I have nothing more to say on this game. I kind of feel like we've covered it.
Okay.
Other than I didn't finish it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'll talk a little bit about like the ending, because the ending is the bit where it diverges most from being kind of a survival game. You basically find, like Ollie was saying, almost looks like an Egyptian ruin or something. There's like this big temple, and it's like a dungeon in a normal game, so it's like really full of puzzles. You got to work your way through, and there's all like switches, and that is actually one of the smart times where there's a time when you see like a switch a bit away, and I'm like, oh, I need to use the bow and like arrow to like shoot it, so I got to like go back and get that, and like they're pretty decent puzzles, and it feels like quite a fun escalation from everything that you've been going through. But just the huge problem with it is, because you're doing so much trying to solve all these puzzles, they're like tile puzzles where you got to make pictures and stuff, is that you still need to keep sleeping. And the fact that you have to keep going out to sleep, and like because you're doing so much stuff, you're running out of fatigue or time going, like it's just like it's basically they took like gameplay from like a Zelda game and put it in, but they've left all the survival mechanics in. And I think the fact that you're like having to stop doing what you're doing to go get food or to go back and sleep really hurts the pacing of what would otherwise be like actually a really cool escalation and like a fun twist for like the ending.
Yeah, I saw the sliding puzzle in the video, but the guy who was somehow finished the game in 2 hours didn't know how to do the sliding puzzle, and had to like read the tutorial like 3 times, like get backing out and then go back in, because like I guess you press the button of the tile that you want to slide into the space.
Oh, wait, he just couldn't know how to move them.
He couldn't do it. Like he just kept moving them up and down, and he was quitting out, going back in, like moving up and down. I was watching. I was like, "Come on, man, you can do it." Like,
I thought I was struggling for a bit, and then I was like, "Oh no, I think I've solved it." But it turns out that you don't have all of the tiles at first. So I thought, sometimes on those tiles they have like a gap and then that's the way you slide
Yeah.
them round. No, that's just a gap that you need to fill in. And so you need to, it's actually quite a smart puzzle because you've got to do the whole puzzle as it would be, but make sure that gap's in the right place. So then at the end, you can add in the missing one, which you have to go and find from another room. So it's just like a good puzzle, but it's just annoying when I'm halfway through it and then they're like, oh, I'm thirsty. And it's like, oh, it's annoying.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of something.
Do you think there's ever been a game where you've been like, I'm so glad it has these survival mechanics?
Yeah, I mean this one, because it's core to the game. Like I think any game where it feels like, oh, it's a normal game, but then also there's like a constant thing ticking down you got to fill up. Like that's annoying. I think where it works is where it's such a key thing and it's enough of a challenge that it doesn't become an annoyance while you're trying to do something else. Like that's where like I played Subnautica, which I know a lot of our audience really like. It's a game that kind of comes up a lot, despite the fact we've never covered it. And at the beginning, it gives you a choice. Like, do you want to do like the survival mechanics or not? And I said yes, because I wanted that experience. And I ended up regretting it because I wanted to have to obviously need oxygen to breathe and explore, but then you have to keep getting water and stuff and food. And for me, like, I'm not saying it's a problem. For me, in the end, like I felt like that was getting in my way of exploring, which is what I found most intriguing in that game. And then like in something like Minecraft, if they took out hunger, like I would be fine with that. But for this game, which is about survival, like basically can you survive on this island for 100 days or escape? Like I think I think the game would be much worse without those mechanics.
I feel like the hunger and thirst were so quickly solved that the only thing I was ever really worried about was sleeping. So maybe there's something in that. Maybe it's not that they need to just go leave those mechanics, but maybe they just needed to balance the hunger and thirst a bit better, because that was like by the third day I had mastered food and water.
It's especially
and it was like
hunger.
never something I had to think about anymore.
Yeah, like water gets a bit more tricky later on because earlier on you're always near a river. And so it's a bit of a no-brainer. Like later on in the game, there's like less obvious water, or like, oh, you can get water, but it's murky water and it will make you ill, even though it will get rid of some of your drink. So, and then you go to a desert as well, where water, becomes obviously a much bigger problem. So water isn't as bad because you just have a flask and you can fill it up 3 times. But yeah, the food is just too easily available, and like eating meat, will fill up like 80% of your hunger bar by itself, or it seems like quite a lot. Maybe it is just a little bit too easy, like after you've kind of learnt how it works.
Yeah, I did actually play another Konami survival game that you may have also played called Metal Gear Survive. Did you play that?
I've never played it, no.
Oh, mate.
Did you play that recently?
I played it when it came out, so 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
How does it compare to Survival Kids?
That has a Survival Kids is better. The problem with Metal Gear Survive is like you run out of water, and there's no clear way to find water. So I literally just would leave my base camp, walk, fall to my knees, and then go back again. And I was like, I can't do this. And that's generally been my experience with survival games up until this one, which was a bit easier. I guess it's for children. It was a bit easier. So. But yeah, so we also got a lot of comments, and a lot of people played the game as well.
Oh, really? Cool. I was curious. So I wasn't sure how it would go, because obviously it's a bit more of an obscure game, but it is a game that is, widely available in different methods online.
Widely available.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was curious.
Beethoven's Diving Gear on YouTube said, "Let's go. Finally, I was actually able to play this game before you covered it." And then in brackets put, "I did this legally. Consult my lawyer if you think otherwise." We also had, Adam, he's got a strange username, Adam 0Y6NC on YouTube. They wrote out quite a lot, and I cut it down a bit, and it ends with a question. But they basically said they played through the game over the course of a week. They got the ending where you escaped by ship and spent 36 days. So they're a bit quicker than you, Joe.
Much quicker.
They said a quick tutorial at the start would have been greatly appreciated. I thought F was food. I did as well.
Yeah.
I loved combining items, and it was pretty exciting when you make something new. I mean, yeah, I actually agree with that. It is difficult to combine stuff and like get it to work, but I guess that means that when it does combine, it's
It's
like
so satisfying. And
great.
because it does like a little jingle
Yeah,
and comes up with the picture. And so anytime you're like, I wonder if this
yeah,
works, and you do it and it does, like that does feel great.
yeah. They also said I vibed with the music, which was usually very fitting, funky, and fun. And I realized it's actually faster to move forward while continuously moving side to side rather than in a straight line. Try it. I also found that because I played it using, I'm showing the camera of audio listeners, this little handheld device that has an analog stick. So I could quite easily walk diagonally, and it is a lot quick. I think it might be like twice as fast as walking straight. I think
Yeah.
they might have done something weird with the diagonal that didn't work.
Well, no, it
And
makes
then they
sense.
said,
No,
in
it would literally
conclusion,
be. I mean, if you think about it, if you move a diagonal space as quick as doing that, like your movement speed, if you are moving like in that direction, it just would be, right?
yeah, I guess it makes
Like
sense.
you're moving
Mathematically
half
in
as
the
many
game, but it doesn't make
tiles.
sense in real life.
No,
Yeah,
I know, but these are
yeah, yeah,
are tiles here.
yeah. They said, in conclusion, I thoroughly enjoyed the 4 or so hours I spent with this game, and I do hope it plays as well on the list. Then, question for the bonus boys: what is soft mush?
It's like mushy leaves or something, isn't it? Or like grass cuttings. Like that's what
I
it
thought
looks
it was
like.
mushrooms. I thought they were. I thought they were mushrooms.
Oh no, are they the
Soft
mushroom?
mushrooms.
I'm thinking of like damp grass or something. I'm thinking of.
You're
Yeah,
thinking of damn.
yeah. I stayed
You're
away from
such a
those
vegan.
mushrooms. I had a few bad experiences, and I didn't touch them again the whole game. I'd always look for like the ones that look like acorns or like berries. I stayed away from the soft mush. Didn't trust
I
that.
think I found one that like which sounded like it was going to make me move faster, but it didn't. But it was
Okay.
like I'm feeling like zippy or something.
Oh, I
And was
think
like,
it.
oh,
Yeah.
cool, I'll run
There's
really
some that
faster than-
increase your fatigue, and then there's some that like, oh, this fruit will like increase your thirst and stuff as well. So I think maybe that's one of the ones
Yeah.
that increases your fatigue.
Also, can I just quickly say how annoying it is that the different meters, like 3 of them go down, or 2 of them go down, and then one of them goes up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so stupid. It's literally like, how did no one look at that and be like, oh, we should make them all go the same way? Like,
Yeah. And like, there's no reason
Anyway.
why it would be that way.
no. I mean, no, there isn't. You're right. Okay, so Zoom on Discord said, I played this game for about an hour on the Steam Deck and enjoyed it, but couldn't figure out how to make a fire for the life of me, which is fair enough. I guess if you're staying away from guides, it could be a little bit tricky. We also have Eleanor Perks on Twitter. This is a question. You'd probably be good for answering this one, Joe. It says, hey guys, huge fan of the show. Nice.
Thank you.
Do you think that modern day survival games are missing or overcomplicating some of the traditional ideas behind these games? If so, what do you think modern games should learn from these old games?
So I think that because this is such an early one, it kind of didn't need another twist. Like trying to survive on an island was a unique thing enough. Now there are so many survival games, especially in the indie space. Like if you said, "Oh, this is a game you've got to survive on an island," everyone would be like waiting for you to finish. Like and like robot dinosaurs. Like what's the twist? You know, like what else? You know.
Yeah.
So I feel like now the survival games need a twist. They need to be like massively multiplayer, or there needs to be like some like time travel or some other gimmick as well. But you always got to hope that like whatever their gimmick is, they don't overshadow the rest of the survival mechanics, and also make it like, you know, you don't want them to be developing an autopilot for like those mechanics and to make sure they're interesting. And one of the things I liked about this game is that it does kind of dump you on the island and not tell you anything. And that's what I always really enjoy. And then I like the fact that I went up like this mountainy area and there was like extremely tough enemies there that could just like kill you very easily and would take loads of hits. And it was like, this is so difficult. And it's not like I'm under leveled or I don't understand something. It's like, well, no, that's the dangerous area because it's the dangerous area. Like that's the mountain lions would be up in the mountain. So you just got to be super careful when going through that area. And, there's no help
Yep.
popping up on screen or anything. And I just learned that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I could trap them in this hole or do what I want to get around it. And I feel like sometimes with modern games, they smooth off those rough edges, which means there's less friction points. There's less people that, didn't work out how to make the kindling to do a fire. But you kind of rob people from what we were talking about earlier of the joy of like working out yourself how to craft something, or being stuck on a place for a while and then working it out yourself and feeling much more rewarded from that.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I agree with you. Lots of well-made points there. I mean, I don't play many of these games, but for me, I think like in terms of most modern games, I don't like when it's like a survival game and someone's like, "Oh yeah, I've made a palace," and it's like, well, you're not really it's not surviving anymore, is it? Like you've got too good. So I actually quite like that this game doesn't have that much to it. It's like you can make like 10 things and that's it. You're not making like, a solid gold toilet on your like 3-story like massive mansion that you've built. And I quite like that about this, and I feel like maybe
I feel targeted with my Minecraft world, Ollie. No.
Do you know what game I'm thinking of? Have you played Conan? Conan Exiles. Have you played that?
No.
That's like a survival sim, but you can like move the camera to like The Sims and like build like. And it's like you're not surviving anymore, are you?
But that's what I'm saying. I think they need their own twist, because I feel like that is almost not enough.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed because when I was looking up this game before I played it, and I saw like a bit of gameplay or like a screenshot, and I saw them cutting down a tree with an axe, and I was like, oh, cool! Like it's actually got like cutting down trees with an axe. I wonder if you can then like build something or whatever. But like that's only like for the story. There's only like 2 or 3 trees that you can cut, even though there's loads of trees. And then you get the lumber and you put them to make the raft or fix your house, and that's it. Like I wish there were more options of like, oh, even if it is only certain trees, but like, oh, if you can cut them to get lumber to maybe increase your storage or just to do something, even if it's just aesthetic. Like I do wish it was a little bit deeper on that side and less of the what would now be a modern survival like main mechanic. I wish less of that was just tied to story moments.
Yeah, fair enough. Should we list it?
Yep, let's put it on the list. Okay, so Survival Kids is going to be the 53rd entry on the list. Before we find its home, shall we? Is there anything else that you got any problems with? Anything that's been bugging you since the last? There normally is. So this is your chance to air all your grievances.
No, all good.
Okay, let's focus on Survival Kids. So I think this is definitely more of a me game than you.
Yeah.
I think that so I've realized that what I you can kind of look at the list and just see the proof of this. Like games that I like are games that do give me that freedom to explore and like work things out, make a plan myself, and also aren't scared for me to get lost and confused and to struggle. And like if you look at like a lot of the top games that I like things like even Zelda, like Death Stranding, like Hollow Knight's a big one, Prey's a big one. Like there's a very, Elden Ring is, I think, the pinnacle of that. And so a lot of those games have that as a core, and then also like amazing art or music or game design as well. And I think Survival Kids has that at the core, and then has like fine gameplay and like catchy music and looks quite nice. So it's I'm not saying like it's going to be up with them, but like the core of what I find really interesting and entertaining in a game, like it just absolutely has that, like without any compromises. And I think that you tend to, not always, prefer a more linear game with a set objective, and you're trying to kind of complete it. And I feel like you don't like being confused or struggling, I guess, as much as I enjoy. You like fun games.
Yes, I like linear experiences. I also like games that are like something I've never seen before, like something that I've never seen in any other game. Which, like, to be fair, this is obviously other survival games do exist, but I don't play them, so this was quite novel for me to play because I don't play games like this. So that was quite cool. Also, it does look good, and the music is good as well. The music being good is a big plus for me because every game that has a good soundtrack, I'm always like, yeah, straight to the top. Like, up it goes.
That is another thing. Music and art, I think you rate much more highly than me. But we do obviously have a lot of crossover with certain games, and the top of the list we're kind of in pretty much agreement. So shall I go first then? Because I think that's probably as high as it will be, and I always like it starting off as high as it would ever be. Do you think that's the way to do it?
Yeah, I've got no idea where I'd put it, but yeah, go on.
Okay, so I would put it... So I'd want it above Alien Isolation, because that's the first thing I'm looking at, because I didn't enjoy that game. And then, so we're getting to around... That's 34 on the list. And then above that is Phoenix Wright. And I'm not sure if I'd put it above Phoenix Wright. And then above that's Halo, and I wouldn't put it above Halo Infinite. So I'm going to say around 32 to 34 area.
Is Phoenix Wright a bit low?
It might be a bit low, but then is Skyrim too high?
I think Phoenix Wright could actually move up to like 27, 28.
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked. I mean, it's weird for me because Alien Isolation is much higher than I would have it personally. So it's a weird area for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking about XCOM as well, and like how buggy that was and how difficult it was.
Yeah, and it was neither of our kind of game, really.
No, and we've both played Phoenix Wright again since finishing it.
Yeah, I did go back to it, and I didn't finish XCOM 2, and I didn't go back to it. I think you know what it is. It's when we have guests. I think games get elevated when we have guests because we don't want to.
Their
upset
passion,
them.
It speaks to us.
It does.
Is enough.
Okay, maybe do it. So
should we move Phoenix Wright up to like 27, 28?
Yeah, maybe put it to 29 because I wouldn't put it over Driver San Francisco, which is at 28. So that's put Phoenix Wright above Super Metroid. And then
I'm happy with that.
Okay.
And then I personally would probably put Survival Kids below Super Metroid, above XCOM.
Also, without my input.
Yeah, I think that's probably where
you would put it above like Zero Ranger, Kiro Blaster, Ratchet and Clank,
Warcraft 2. I wouldn't put Zero Ranger and Kiro Blaster that low down. But they are that low down.
Yeah,
so.
I guess that doesn't really make sense. So no, I thought you were going to be because like as always, we didn't discuss this game, but there was a few words that you mentioned when playing it, where I think maybe it was earlier on where I felt like you were struggling with the game and not having much fun. Did you kind of come around a little bit the more you played?
Well, basically because I really struggled at the beginning, like 12 in-game days of basically not doing anything. And then once I used the guides to like get the first couple of bits moving, I kind of worked on it from there. Okay. It was just like knowing what I could and couldn't do. And then once I passed that, it was like, oh, it's actually, good fun. So
I think the big thing is
I ended up having fun with it.
The big thing for me, and as of the things that I say I like in a game and what I was listing off, I think that the huge thing is the making a plan. And I think that's a huge reason why I love, like, especially like Hollow Knight and like Elden Ring and stuff, is because there isn't the obvious thing to do. You can have so many things that you want to do, and like almost trying to do a bit of Dandori and trying to like optimize what you're doing, and like, are you going to be leveling up, or I died on this boss, I can choose to like grind and get better at them, or go and like head off to somewhere else and do something. And with Survival Kids, I felt like a lot of the time I'd wake up and be like, right, what am I going to do this day? Like literally thinking about Dandori from like Pigman and be like, what's the efficient route that I can do? And like, oh yeah, like I did find that thing earlier, but I didn't test doing this. I could go back to that, but I'm going to do this first. And I think that's what I really enjoyed out of it. So I would put it... Can we switch around Halo Infinite and Skyrim?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we've actually been playing a bit of Halo Infinite, haven't we?
Yeah, we've been doing some game nights on the Discord. So if you're on the Discord and you fancy playing some Halo with us, the game's free. So yeah, and that's been fun. Doing custom games has been a lot of fun.
I'd move it above Super Metroid, I think, at this point.
Okay. This is just
because
rewinding.
We've been playing it. It's fun.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd do that. I'd definitely put it above XCOM.
Okay, so look, there we go.
Oh, this is so exciting. This
is why the list is a moving document, isn't it?
Yeah, this is like so turbulent. So then, Survival Kids, could we put that one under Super Metroid, one above XCOM 2? So it would be at 32 on the list. Does that bode well for you?
Yeah. Sounds great. Sounds perfect.
Yeah, that's
There we
higher than
go.
I was expecting it to go.
No, mate. Once you get below like 39, 40, you're looking at some pretty rough. Well, first Elite and the Digger down there, but even so, when you start to get below that, it starts to get quite
But
rough.
no,
So I think it's about the
I
right
thought
place.
that for you, that is the experience that you were having. Like I don't
No, no,
know.
no, no, no.
Yeah, I didn't know. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it like as much as kind of some of the games that it's around. So basically, it would be ending up at 32. So just to kind of read out that area as it is now, Halo Infinite's at
Mhm.
30. Then Super Metroid's at 31, Survival Kids at 32, XCOM 2 at 33, and then, sorry, Elder Scrolls fans, Skyrim has been pushed even further down to 34. We understand that we're outliers, and most people
Yeah,
absolutely love that game. We enjoyed and appreciated that game.
yeah. But the other thing is about Survival Kids is like I have a lot of nostalgia for this generation and the Game Boy. The Game Boy was the
Yes.
first console I owned, like
Yeah.
my own console that I didn't share with my brother or anything. It was just mine. So I have a lot of nostalgia for this. I also bought an analog pocket. Um, so I've also been inducted into that
Yeah.
into that
Have you
cult
been
of
looking at
playing
lots
on
of top
yours.
10 Game Boy lists as well and stuff?
Do you know what I have? I'm trying to play through the ones that I want to play that I know in my head that I wanted to play first. So I'm going through those. I'm playing Wario Land 4 and Metal Slug Advance at the moment. So
Nice, cool. And
because that's the other thing, because you can load games onto it. It's tempting. You could just like completely fill it up, but I'm trying not to do that. So
yeah, well, I'm trying to mainly get cartridges. So obviously you can, and
mm,
I would. This is obviously we're not sponsored by Analog Pocket, and if you wanted to buy one, you probably can't because they sell out as soon as they're available for sale anyway. So it's even hard for us even to recommend them. But yeah, it is absolutely incredible. Like it is, as I say, I'm playing the actual just cartridge, but just from
yeah,
putting it on a so this is like a tiny screen, but it's like 1440p screen, but it's like not that
yeah,
much bigger than original Game Boy, so it's like incredibly like high resolution, but like displaying like these like bright colorful pixel graphics, and I do really love the look of it. So if you do want to hear more of our adventures with games outside of the ones we're doing on the podcast, we do have a second podcast called Extra Credit, which you can listen to if you are a Patreon member, where we kind of talk about real life stuff, but also we've been talking a lot about our Game Boy adventures recently. So if you are curious,
yes.
that's the way to hear more about it.
I absolutely love this thing, and I'm very happy that I was convinced to buy one by playing yours. So yeah, strong recommendation.
So
Um,
there's a free
let's talk about
free
what's
plug for Analog there. Hope you appreciate that. Once again,
yeah,
no contact with them, not sponsored.
yeah.
We're just two
No,
nerds happy with our
no.
little fake Game Boys. That's all it is.
Should we talk about what's coming up?
Yeah, because there's been a bit of a switcheroony once again. We are being very uncommittal recently with our upcoming games.
Yeah. Well, we're not. I mean, are we definitely locked in for that? Because I didn't know if we were going to wait to see if it launches on Xbox.
Yeah, I mean we're locked in with the guest. So I mean, if we might
Yeah.
end up
Okay. All
playing
right
it on
then.
a different
Okay.
platform, or who can guess already
Yeah.
what it's going to be
Okay.
from that?
It's Mario. Okay. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
So Christmas quiz is 15th of December. And then on the 29th of December, we've got Game of the Year. And then on the 12th of January, we've got Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm very excited about that with a guest.
With a guest.
And then on the 26th of January, we have Outer Wilds, which we originally put there because Ridge Racer before it was really short. And that's now Baldur's
And now we're
Gate
doing
3.
Baldur's Gate 3. But we have a lot of time,
Yeah.
hopefully, to play Baldur's Gate 3. So the reason why Ollie was hesitant is because we're both planning to play it on Xbox co-op with our partners. So that's the reason why we were both a little bit hesitant. As we're recording this, it's not out on Xbox, but it's heavily rumored that it will be coming out during the Game Awards, which I think is on the 7th of December. So fingers crossed it comes out for that. But for this guest, we will make sure that we've played it some way or another. But back to back, Baldur's Gate 3 and then Outer Wilds. That is going to be a great start to the year.
Yeah, it's almost like we're apologizing for Survival Kids.
Yeah. Wow, you said so many people played Survival Kids.
People were excited, to be fair. People were excited.
Okay, brilliant. And then what
sweet.
else is happening in bonus points land in general?
Well, we obviously have Blood Brothers. We've just started the DLC. That's live now. The first episode of the DLC is live. We have a Alan fake video, which we kind of masked what really happens in that video, like as a bit of a joke. But I think people genuinely didn't realize that there's a lot more to it than it says.
Yeah.
So I recommend going and watching
no more.
that.
Go give it a watch.
Yeah,
It's a fun one.
Give it a chance, even if you haven't played Alan Wake, because there's more going on there than you think. So, yeah, check that out. And then also, actually, no, let's not announce that. Let's wait.
Okay. And then there's other, as we're recording this, other one-off videos that aren't online yet that will be coming. So basically, because we were a little bit slow, we weren't doing many best of threes and one-offs because both Ollie and I were very busy with work. That's kind of come down a bit, so we've been able to do a few more things. Although, we are planning to not record too much over Christmas. But, you've got all this stuff coming up. We got the, say, Game of the Year and the Christmas quiz as well. Yeah. So, yeah, should be fun times on the bonus points. Yep, we're not having a full break.
Indeed.
Thank you everyone who played along with this. We will see you very, very soon for the next podcast, which will of course be the quiz, which we are currently 1-1 on each. So best of 3 for the Christmas quizzes. We'll see who's going to go ahead. But yeah, apart from that, cheers for listening or watching, and we will see you all later. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.